quick. Okay. Okay, you're going to say continue.
We know where to go when we need help.
Yeah, that's right. Sally will be so pleased. Well, I just want to thank all of you for coming, and especially Ryan and Luna. And you may have seen Ryan if you've gone to the website. He's the handsome man with the sun in the picture. And we look forward to hearing from you, Ryan. And Luna is one of our own. She is a recent graduate of UC Berkeley, a local, and she graduated just this last May in political science and economy, political economy and public policy. So I think Ridwell is like a perfect match for Luna. So
we think so too. Yeah.
Take it away. So thank you so much.
Wonderful, thank you. I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen. And I think Ryan is gonna be the perfect person to kick us off with our origin story.
All right, and love questions too, so definitely save those. So as Luna said, I'm Ryan, even though it says Owen in the Zoom. I'm in Seattle right now, and Owen and I did over 1,000 pickups, very much like Ridwell did back in the day, and that was kind of the inspiration, which you'll learn about. So we did that in 2018. We're now about 4 years later, and we're thrilled to be expanding to the Bay Area and many other places to sort of show what's possible when people come together that have a shared interest around climate, the environment, and want to make a difference. And we're thrilled to enable that at a large scale.
Wonderful. And Susan gave me a wonderful introduction, so I don't need to do much more, but my official title is the East Bay Community Launcher. So I'm working with Ryan and other wonderful people at Ridwell to bring Ridwell to the East Bay. So we're very excited about it.
Thank you. So this is I'm coming to you from the room that inspired Ridwell. And so I'm in my basement in a bedroom that serves as a bunch of random things. It's an office sometimes. There's a little treadmill here, but it also was the getting rid of stuff room for many years, where my family, I have two boys who are now 6 and 10. And we would just bring things when we wanted to get rid of them, but didn't want to throw them in the garbage. So that's where the Goodwill clothes would show up, the batteries, the styrofoam, the electronics, they all would get in little bags here like you see. And those would accumulate over time. And so it was kind of the inspiration to see all that and say, well, what else could we do? If you go to the next slide, what we did was Owen and I, and that's him several years ago, every weekend, we would pick a category like styrofoam, like light bulbs that were in this room, and we would research it and find out, yes, there were local partners in the Seattle area who would reuse or recycle those things. And then rather than just take our stuff there, we would volunteer to take neighbors too. So we would post in buy nothing groups and things like that. And so it was very much like I had a paper out when I was a kid. And so it kind of took me back to those days of sort of going house to house. And so Owen and I would fill our little Toyota with styrofoam or light bulbs, and then we'd go to the partner. And then we would tell people what happened to it. And that was really kind of the fun part to see that actually people got encouragement by that. And they said, wow, that's amazing. You know, here's more ideas and more categories. So that really picked up a lot of momentum and was awesome to see. It gave us, cleared out our room, but then also is kind of what led to many more things. At the same time, again, this was back in 2018. And so people were gravitating towards us. They were asking lots of questions and, how can you recycle these things, Owen and Owen's dad? And so what happened in 2018, you might've read about, is China stopped taking a lot of the Western world's recycling. And so cities were taking stuff away from their recycling systems. And there was this big gap and really a need to step up and say, well, is there a different way of doing things that Owen and I could do on a small scale, but hopefully maybe one day on a much larger scale. We also have learned, and I think people even back in 2018 were aware of this, and even more today, as Art was saying, that not addressing them and kind of going on with our consumption patterns, there's consequences to that. So things like more plastic in the ocean than fish. That's an estimate that is 20 years off or something like that. Or the amount of methane emissions that come from landfills that didn't need to be there if there were other ways to get rid of stuff. So people are seeing this. They're saying my industry isn't doing anything, and there's less room to get rid of things through traditional recycling. What's a different way to do it? And so that's what we'll get to in a bit. So this is what we believe in. We want all of you and many others, thousands, millions, whatever, to have no waste at all. And so what we do is what Owen and I did, but do it at a scale. And we do it with 200 people in 5 states and soon to be a 6. So we pick up things from your home that can be reused. That's always our top choice, or recycled, but don't work in traditional curbside recycling. We keep them out of the landfill. We take them to the localist partners we can, and then we tell you where that all goes. So that's in a nutshell what we are all about at Ridwell, is finding all those categories that can't go in the main system and finding a way to do something better with it. The way we do it, and so this is kind of neat how this sort of adds onto each other. So first, we want to make it really simple and delightful to get rid of stuff. So we send you text message confirmation, we tell you the story, we send you photos, all that stuff to really inspire people that they are making a difference and seeing the volume that's being, diverted and that type of thing. If we do that at scale and we have enough people, what's really fun is then we can create new categories that didn't exist before. So in Portland, Oregon, we added clamshell plastics, which they didn't accept in municipal recycling for decades, because we had at the time 10, 20,000 members in Portland. We were able to do that because there's enough people. We're working on a new plastic that I'm super excited about that we couldn't have done with 5,000 members, but with 75, 80,000 we can. And so that's really fun because the people are really making that possible, telling us what they still have around their house. And then we work really hard to find partners for those things. The last part is around consumption. And so we call it, how can we support responsible consumption? And so that's partnering with brands like a Starbucks, who we worked with here in Seattle, around reusable cups. What if you could reuse a cup over and over again? And Ridwell did the pickup and the return trip and stuff like that, instead of taking single-use recyclable ones. So as we have more and more members, more and more of a footprint, we hope to really work with the biggest of brands to help them come up with less wasteful options for what they are providing to their customers.
And I'd also love to jump in here because I know that Susan received some questions from some of her friends and community. And one of them was, what does Ridwell do about encouraging decreasing single-use plastic? So she got a question saying, because Ridwell exists and we have Trex, are we then not encouraging a decrease of single-use plastics? Are we giving these companies a way out, or where's our stance on that?
Yeah, great question. And we hear from our members often, almost every day, about how they are actually, because we give people a plastic film bag, because we have a member success team who answers all their questions, they're now seeing what they're putting in their plastic film bag. And so that is giving them visibility like not before, of like, what are the things that, plastic film recycling is better than a landfill. And I'll say that all the time. It definitely is, but we're really looking to see, well, what else is there? We also, one thing we do, I mentioned the clamshells, like in Portland, we recycle those, but we had a nonprofit recently that said, we're looking for hundreds, thousands of clamshells to give to, people who are, food insecure in Seattle. And so we brought a bunch of them there. So we're always looking for reuse every which way. As we get more and more, we expect to go more towards reuse, even more than we are today. So I think it's the first step, is kind of building a community of people who care, helping them recycle them into Trex and other materials, but then kind of shine the light on what is still left. How can we make that reuse, and how can we, go kind of even more towards one of the other R's, which we believe is a better one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you. And if anyone has any follow-up questions on that, we'd love to hear them. You can put them in the chat or anything like that. But yeah, we definitely do not encourage the use of single-use plastics. We encourage reducing it, and then if you cannot do that, then everything that Ryan just mentioned.
And this is actually out of date, Luna, I forgot to mention this to you. We're actually over 8 million pounds. The data piece is an important element too. And so every time we do a pickup, we can tell exactly what was picked up from what home, by what driver, at what time. And so we can aggregate all that data, and we can look at what are different neighborhoods, what are different cities, states, et cetera. What is the Ridwell universe across the 5 states we're already in? And so the new number is 8 million, which is awesome to see, especially from humble beginnings. When our first pickup of batteries, we probably had 5 pounds across 5 neighbors. So to go from that to 8 million is awesome to see, and we're definitely just getting started.
It's a fun number. So way bigger and better than 5 million.
Yeah, a little bit more specific on how it works. And this does vary somewhat by the city that you live in. But generally there are what are called core categories. And so we give people reusable bags to store these things in their home. Plastic film is your thin scrunchable plastics like you see in the top right there. Clothing, fabric, and shoes, we sometimes call that threads. Light bulbs of all type, so your LEDs, your CFLs, your incandescents, and then household batteries, where household batteries are not already accepted curbside. So those are what we call core, and we are always looking to see, are there other things that are core that we should add to the service? But those are sort of the starting point. And then if you go to the next slide, I think it's the, actually, I'm skipping ahead a little bit. No, go ahead. No, keep on this one. Transparency is really important. So I mentioned the data. We have people who screen the plastic film before they bale it, send it to trucks. And so we publish that data. We think this is something that all recycling partners should do, not only say where it goes, but how much of it actually goes there, because then this gives us a target to say, okay, well, what's in that 2.2%? Could we find a partner for those? Or and we can look across cities. You can see what is Denver's number, Portland's numbers, et cetera. We really want to kind of shine a light, be transparent on this stuff, such that we can all create a better system that people have trust in, that can do even better things than happen today. This is where I thought we were going. So we've got the core categories, the four I mentioned, and then we also have what's called a featured category. And this is one of my favorite parts of Ridwell because it really takes me back to when Owen and I would do pickups. We would pick a new category every week, and really the community around here was super excited to see, well, what are they going to discover next? And so this is an element of that where every 2 weeks there's a new one of these. And so these are often seasonal. You got your holiday lights in January. You have often excess Halloween candy in November. We're doing political yard signs, in mid-November coming up this year. These are almost all reuse. You got your kids' clothes and shoes, your pots and pans, and we work with as local of partners as we can. So most of these do not even travel outside of the sort of general area that we're operating in. So this is one you can plan ahead at least 6 pickups in advance and kind of know that those are coming, know that it's a chance to kind of clear out that pantry or clear out the kids' closet, whatever that may be. And so you put those in the bin along with the other categories, we'll get them, and then we'll tell you the story of where all the stuff goes. So where we're at in the East Bay, we are getting really close. I think we started to launch in Alameda. We had a few hiccups with our facility. It wasn't quite up to code as we thought. So we are very close on a new facility. There's tons of interest in Oakland. I know there's many people in this group that are in parts of Oakland. So that will come next. So we're expecting to officially begin service in the near future. So definitely make sure that you're on our list with your zip code. And then as we get to your neighborhood, and we do that intentionally so that we have enough people to efficiently do pickups, we will eventually get to the whole Bay Area, but beginning with Alameda, then Oakland, Berkeley, and places around there.
And I will also put this link in the chat box as well. If you haven't signed up, it's really quick. You just put your name, zip code, and email address, and we won't email you excessively. We'll just let you know when we're in your area or doing a free pickup. So it's a great way to kind of stay in the know about Ridwell. Yeah.
Right. And that's the end there. It's a nice elementary school talk Owen and I did many years ago.
Yeah. And yeah, thank you so much, Ryan, for explaining everything. No one can speak on Ridwell better than you can. And I guess some good things for transparency, since these are things we've just recently figured out, would be surrounding pricing. I know that that's oftentimes the number one question that we get asked. So we do have an answer now. And so for a twice a month pickup, including the core categories as well as the featured category, it's going to come out to about $14 a month if you sign up for a year-long subscription. So we try to make it as accessible and affordable as we can while still providing the best service that we can in the neighborhoods that we go into. So we are really excited that we're that close, that we can tell you how much it costs, that we're getting there on the warehouse, and that you guys can really soon be signing up for the service. So I just like to put that out there, since I know it's a question that oftentimes comes up. Let me look in the chat box. Yes, I will put the link to where to register. Absolutely, I'll do that in the chat. Are there any questions that we can answer for anybody? Any dive deeper on any aspect of Ridwell at all?
Question?
Luna, can I just raise my hand and ask a question?
Yes, absolutely.
I'd like to go back to the slide where it talked about contamination, because I got and you were talking about 2.5% or something. I got confused by that slide, and I don't know what you mean exactly by contamination.
Yeah, great question. This is a little bit inside baseball. If you're not using Ridwell yet, it may not make sense. So what we do, each metro area, we kind of group together. And so we're taking all of the plastic film from the Seattle metro area, and then it comes to our warehouse in Seattle. Then we have people who are emptying all of the bags, and they're separating the plastic film as it's intended. Sometimes there are bubble mailers, there are harder plastics, there is metal sometimes. Our members are amazing. And to illustrate that, only 2% of what they put in those plastic film bags are things that we take out that are not plastic film. So then we're making bales of plastic film that is the highest quality that Trex receives, because we are taking those things out and because our members give us such good stuff. So one month it might be 2.2, then the next month when we have a few more members, maybe it's 4.6, that type of thing. So each category on a monthly or quarterly basis, I don't remember which, you can go see where does plastic film in the East Bay go and how much contamination was there for the entire group of members in that community that Ridwell employees screened out and didn't give to the ultimate destination partner.
I see. Now question, like a plastic bag, even though we try and not get a plastic bag, but if we do, and if it did have food in it, do we wash the plastic bag? It has to be completely clean and dry before we put it in there, or we can't put it in there? We can't.
Yeah, good question. So a relatively clean plastic bag would be in the 97.8, but a potato chip bag that has a metal lining would be in the 2.2. So, does it have to be speckled clean and perfectly dry? Like, no, things happen in the journey. So I wouldn't stress over it being like perfection, because it is going to be, baled and, provided to Trex and things like that. But if it's like obsessive food, like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich in a Ziploc bag, like that type of thing, you wouldn't want to give us because that would be too contaminated.
So something like a shampoo bottle. Like a shampoo bottle, if that was rinsed out and dry, that would be okay.
Shampoo bottles are a harder plastic. So I don't know exactly what city you're in, but that would most likely be curbside recyclable. That's not something we do, shampoo bottles.
Okay, and my last question is, I love that you have the paper bubble mailer here, because Amazon, even though a lot of people from this church try and not use Amazon, but when we do, sometimes you get a paper bubble mailer. How do you get the plastic? How do you separate that waffle bubble plastic from the outside?
You can't, unfortunately. So that's one that we, those come in occasionally in our plastic film bags. And so we have to take those out because they do have paper in them. And then we have to throw those out.
Yeah, you have to say more. I'm getting it finally, the contaminant that you can't use it. Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you so much for all your questions. Susan, please pop in with any more, but I'm gonna go through the chat questions now. So we got our first question from Gretchen, and they're wondering how much can be picked up per time. I'm actually gonna get a box. I have one right next to my desk, so I'm gonna get one right. So this is what a Ridwell box looks like. And I'm gonna unblur myself. So a Ridwell box is this large. This is me as a person. I'm 5'4" for reference. So everything that you put, we expect around this much waste or material or less in your box. So that is the size of what can be picked up. And then inside each bin, you'll have your bags. And so, for example, this is a plastic film bag, what we've been talking about. And so you put as much plastic film as you have or can fit in this bag. And we have a bag for each one of our categories. And you can fill up the entire box with your bags as it's put in its correct bag. And then we have something called beyond the bin. So if the amount of materials that you have that it exceeds what would fit inside this bin, it's for $2 extra. we can collect material that does not fit within your bin. So I guess the answer is there's no limit, probably within reason, but we see the vast majority of people be able to fit all the material that they need inside this bin.
The other thing, just to add a few to that, Luna, it doesn't need to shut. So sometimes we see them kind of propped open a bit. And then we also give new members a chance to, because they maybe have been saving up plastic film or have extra clothes, like we give some free extras on everyone's first pickup.
Yeah, because you can't put clothes in that little thing.
Yes, clothes. Yeah, sometimes like an initial clothing clean out. Sometimes this just won't do it. So yeah, we have the beyond the bin, and then when you become a new member. Thank you, Ryan, for adding those. So Sarah is just wondering, and this will just be brief, but she was late to the meeting and wants to see the recording. So I believe that possibly Deborah will have that recording, and there will possibly be a way to send that out.
I already answered that in here. There's another member of the church who does that, and usually they're posted on the YouTube channel, the same place that the services are, for about 2 weeks.
Oh, fabulous. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And thank you for recording this. So Bonnie was wondering, how do we define plastic film?
I'll give my first go at that. Plastic film is thin scrunchable plastics, most often HDPE or LDPE. Sometimes it's number 5, but it is, I think, thin scrunchable is the main part of it. Oftentimes you'll see a little, how to recycle logo where it'll say store drop off, it'll say plastic film or something like that. So common examples: Ziploc bags, Amazon bubble mailers, air pillows, the outside of paper towels, inside of cereal bags, cereal boxes, like the bag inside, like all of that type of stuff is plastic film. We also have a phenomenal member success team. We get tons and tons of kudos for them. They're a great group of people who truly, truly care about the stuff. And so they're there to answer any questions. We have people who post photos and kind of converse with people that way. So definitely they are a resource when you're not sure. And we also have lots of examples on our website.
Yeah. Wonderful. So we have our next question is a monthly subscription required for pickup, or can we request a pickup every once in a while?
Today, a subscription is required. So that kind of makes it so we have enough people in the area. We also have found that 80 to 85% of the time, people use a pickup every single 2-week option. We have also had people who may not have enough to do, pick up all the 2, and they'll share with neighbors, and we do nothing to discourage that. That's just how we have kind of set up our system, is to be a subscription, to have these pickups every 2 weeks. So for now, that's how it works.
Wonderful. And we have a question about what happens to the plastics when Trex ages out. So possibly someone, the Trex decking has lived its life and now it's going to be removed. And does it go to the landfill, or et cetera?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's one that was just asked, and I didn't actually see how that was answered. But what I have heard told is that those are 20, 30-year lifespan materials. And it's really a long life product that stays good for a very long time. Post that, I've heard that Trex has been experimenting, but I don't know the specifics of that. But in our research, they are the best partner from an environmental standpoint, given that long lifespan that their product has.
And just to touch on that as well, earlier, I know that there have been a few people who've inquired about like our plastic and the our desire to kind of, I guess, encourage plastic use in some ways. So this is really a wonderful way to be able to recycle plastic film, which is incredibly difficult to do so. So Ryan and our partnerships team have found the best option for that. So yeah, we're really proud of our partnership with them. And if you guys have ever seen a Trex deck, they're pretty cool. We have another question asking about if we work with multifamily buildings, and if there was a retirement community that's into recycling, how could they participate?
Yeah, that's a great one. Great question. So we have multiple ways to do that. People who live in multifamily buildings, they can sign up, and many of them do. At least 5% of our members do live in apartment buildings. And so what we do is our drivers who are employees, they have a app that they do to do pickups, and they'll jot notes down for each stop. And so sometimes it'll be enter code pound 4261, and so that'll let someone in to go pick it up from unit 206. Sometimes it'll be the bin is around in the parking garage that you have access to, something like that. So we will work it out on a case-by-case basis. We also have around 10 pilot programs where the building uses it collectively. That's a slightly different model. We need to work with the property manager on that. It's a different, much larger bin, and actually each category gets its own bin, and the community uses it together. That's a pretty nascent product, but it's one that we hope to expand in a pretty big way in the future.
And I would like to just say to Bonnie that I would be extremely happy to speak with you or anyone that helps run your retirement community, and I could give a presentation similar to this, or just speak to people to maybe have it be a community-wide thing, or just spread the word within your community. So I will leave my email in the chat.
We've also had to I don't know if it's retirement communities or churches even, where they will get like a couple subscriptions and have a couple bins and kind of use it together. So there's some kind of hacky ways to do it. We hope to make it not hacky in the future, but there are definitely communities like that are able to use it, and we're thrilled to have them.
So Sarah is wondering if we take hard plastics, number 5, or anything other than number 1. So I guess what number plastics we accept.
We don't do 1, other than clamshells in areas that don't do clamshells. So we come in and see what communities and more like local governments already do. And so we don't do that. We find the gaps that are there, and then we try to fill as many of those as we can. So we have done some featured categories that are number 5, like we've done plastic bottle caps is one. There's a picture I just saw of Portland where there's lots and lots of those. We've done prescription bottles, orange prescription bottles, not with a medication in them, but empty ones. That is often number 5. So we work really hard to find the types of plastics that you may have and look for partners with them. Main ones is plastic film on an ongoing basis, and then featured categories are sort of case by case, but we try to do many of them.
Thank you for answering that. This is a very specific plastic film, and possibly something that we may ask member success about, but is the cellophane type material from a bouquet considered to be plastic film, like that what they wrap like flowers in? I'm
fairly certain cellophane is not, because I think it is derived from plants, which is different than plastic, which is not. So I'm pretty sure that one is not something that is in plastic film, but that may be compostable depending on where you live.
We also have another question. Do we have corporate clients, such as could we have a large church pick up at a bigger group rate?
We don't have an official program. I'm kind of sounding like a broken record, but we do work out things in kind of an unofficial way. So there's a church right near where I live that has 1 or 2 bins and stuff like that. There are small businesses, especially who just sign up, with a credit card and use it that way. I think in those cases, it just takes someone internally at those organizations to manage it and be kind of the point person. But if they're, able to do that and coordinate amongst the people who attend the church or people who work at the company, happy to accommodate.
Yeah, and a lot of this would just be reaching out to me or our members support team and just kind of communicating on what would be best, what you're looking for, the anticipated quantity of materials that you would have, and then we'd work with you from there. But it looks like this is our last question, or at least just for now, and it says the wrapping that large amounts of toilet paper comes in. So is that plastic film?
Classic plastic film. Yep, that's a great example of one.
Yeah. A good way to think about it, I think Ryan said this, but if you can scrunch it in your hand really easily, and it is plastic, that's a pretty good bet. Not always, but that's a pretty easy way to tell, just kind of like a personal little check.
And 2 things, I've taken many recycling center tours in my day. So a few reasons why plastic film cannot go in those systems. One, because of its flexible shape, it gets caught in the machinery. A lot of those are machine driven. And so there's conveyor belts and gears and ramps and stuff like that. And so plastic film jams up the machines multiple times a day. It also is pretty hard to distinguish between paper. And so if you think of like an Amazon bubble mailer and then a paper catalog, to a machine, those might look similar. And so that will ruin the paper bales if it has excess plastic. So it's a really, really hard one for traditional recycling centers to accommodate. Because we provide people with bags and they separate it, then that's how we were able to do something that doesn't work in that system.
Yeah. Well, thank you all so much for your wonderful and thoughtful questions and taking the time out of your evening. Are there any other questions that anyone has? You could just unmute and ask them or ask them in the question. I just want to make sure we get to everybody's.
I have a question. This is Sandy. Sorry, my doorbell rang and I had to answer it. So I missed part of this, but on the film type plastic where they are collected in stores and other places, how does what they do with it differ than what you do with it? Can you explain that?
Yep, great question. In theory, it's the same, though I will caveat that there's been articles about what actually happens to those store materials. We work directly with Trex on those. We publish the stats on how much goes there. We show the receipts and all that. And many times you'll ask people in grocery stores and say, what happens to this? And they say, well, we just throw it away anyway. I don't want to say that all of them are doing that. I'm sure some of them are, but what we really offer is the transparency, the trust, like this is what we do. Our core purpose is to reduce waste in massive ways, not sell spinach and sandwiches and stuff like that a grocery store might. So this is our thing, and we provide lots of trust and transparency around that, working directly with the partners.
And we'd also say a big thing is just the ease that we give you. So some people would say, well, I can go to Goodwill or I can take it to the Safeway plastic film drop off. And we applaud the people who go out of their way to do those wonderful things for the environment. But we also provide the easiest way to get rid of the materials that you can say for certain, because we promise you, we show you, and we post stats about where it goes. So there's also a convenience factor. Yes. Hi, Art.
Hi. Okay, two-part question. First part is, what is your status as a business? Are you a for-profit business, not-for-profit? And then the other part is, I was fascinated by your example of the Christmas tree lights. So how would Christmas tree lights be processed and where would they wind up at?
Yeah, so on the first one, we are what's called a social purpose corp. So we are incorporated as a for-profit business, but one that anyone who is an investor, an employee, a stakeholder in Ridwell knows that we are not short-term profit motivated. Some of our categories, we would save lots of money just throwing in the landfill, but that's not what we're all about. We also could have lower paid wages and not give benefits and things like that. So it's kind of like a B Corp, if you've heard of that term before, where you're sort of in between a for-profit and nonprofit. That's how we have come about. That's how we've set up ourselves. On the Christmas light question, so we're not the processor of them. We find people who are, and so in that particular case, the wiring inside of holiday lights are things that can be recovered from them. And so oftentimes it'll be, like in Seattle at least, it's a electronics recycler who has an outlet for Christmas lights. And so they will bale them in massive quantities, and then someone will have a way to extract the metal from them and then reuse the metal in ways that are safe. Sometimes they also are able to keep the plastic. I've heard that they can be used in things like flip-flops and stuff like that.
Susan.
Yes.
Do you take old videos?
Like VHS tapes?
Yes.
We're trying to get rid of old videos.
I've been.
You and us both. I know I have some in my attic. That is one where I'm not aware of a partner we've located that there's some that do that category, but they do things like they turn it into cement fuel and stuff like that. And so that's not a sort of end life that we can get behind for that one in particular. So we've not yet found the right outlet for that. We're looking for it. We have done DVDs and things like that, which there are better ways to recycle them. But VHS tapes and magnetic media, as it's sometimes called, is one that's still on the list to find the right partner.
Okay. And then two more things. You may have mentioned this, but styrofoam, and then I'm saving all these kind of electrical things that I hide them from him. Well, he just wants me.
She hides a lot of stuff.
He wants me to dust it. I know there's got to be some place to take them. Like,
yeah, so styrofoam, thank you for asking about that one. We have what are called add-ons. And so that is larger things that we pick up on a less frequent basis. And so styrofoam is one of those. So like in Seattle, it's, we give you, actually provide a bag to you, a very large orange bag, and then you fill it up and request a styrofoam pickup, set it next to your bin. That will be in the Bay Area, not right at the beginning, but in the first few months. But we really want to make it so it can be around kind of December, January timeframe when there is more styrofoam floating around. So that one will be added. We also do latex paint that way in some markets, as well as light tube. So that's what add-ons are like. And then, Susan, I didn't totally get your question. Was around electronics and things like that. Was that the other one you were asking about that you hide from Art?
Yeah. The stuff I hide from him, like cords.
Yeah, so I don't know exactly what that is, but we different types of electronics are very popular featured categories. So we'll do portable devices, we'll do printer cartridges, chargers, cables, stuff like that. We run those several times a year.
Oh,
And they get widely used.
great. Finally, thank you.
Yeah.
I can haul everything out of different closets now. Thank you.
Yes, we hope to clear out those closets as much as we can.
Yes. Let's go to Babs.
Yes, I started a bit late and I may have missed this, but the locations that you operate in the East Bay, do you pick up in Walnut Creek?
Not yet. So we will get there though. So
Okay.
definitely make sure that you have provided your zip code, email address. That's how we know how many people there are. What we typically do is set a goal that says, once we get to 400 people on a waiting list in Walnut Creek, we'll launch. So we will move outward. We're starting in Alameda. Then we'll add Oakland and Berkeley and kind of move outward into different areas like Walnut Creek.
Okay.
Hopefully by the fall, like the
Oh.
kind of the mid-fall, I would suspect.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and I just put the link in the chat again in case you didn't get the chance to look at it. But that you just input your name, email address, and zip code, and lets us know that you're interested, and we'll keep you updated about Ridwell and your zip code. It looks like we have a few more in the chat, and then yeah, we'll get through those. So Deborah asked if we were trying to get Safeway to give us our plastic rather than throwing it away, or maybe just like larger businesses as a whole.
So a lot of those grocers have kind of back of the house stuff. So they get things in pallet wrap, and pallet wrap is actually really good quality plastic film because it's not contaminated, it's in large volume. So haven't had discussions with Safeway, but some smaller grocers like co-ops and things like that, we've tried to partner with them in other areas, and definitely would be happy to entertain that.
And Ryan, you mentioned Trader Joe's when Art and I went to the meet and greet and met you. Can you tell us anything about Trader Joe's?
Yeah, so there's the material that you buy from Trader Joe's as a customer, as I am. Lots of plastic film there, I'll tell you that. You get your green peppers in a tray and then the plastic around it, like that's plastic film. In terms of working with Trader Joe's, the company, they've reached out in the Seattle area around what I talked about, kind of the back of house stuff. Not gotten anything fully off the ground, but it's definitely one that we hope to continue to work with in the future.
Yeah. It looks like we have a question from Carol, and then we'll go to Sarah.
You picked up in my neighborhood a while back, 94705 in Berkeley, and I haven't
Nice.
heard from, I haven't heard from you since though. What happened?
Yeah, I wish we were already operating our full service. So those were kind of trial pickups that we do. And we do those as we're sort of generating interest. Our warehouse situation, in order to provide the full service, that's what's kind of held us up a little bit. So we had a place, then we had a lease, and then we learned that there were some surprises there where we couldn't operate it in. We have another place identified. We're working through that. It's in San Leandro. I hear it's great. And so once we get that ironed out, you will hear from us loud and clear. And Berkeley has lots of people, I think almost 1,000 from Berkeley alone that are on the waiting list. And so we hope to get there very soon once we get the warehouse thing lined up.
And you'll let us know.
Absolutely. Yep. If you're on the list, which if you did a pickup, you would be.
Yeah.
And so you will hear from us, and we'll share that. We'd hope we have even the content ready to go for Berkeley. We just didn't want to get ahead of ourselves and, try to operate, before we quite have the facility part lined up.
Ryan and Luna, Carol is the person that informed me about Ridwell, and that's why we.
Oh, fantastic.
Thank you so much, Carol, and thank you so much for participating in our pickups.
Thank you.
I may have done your pickup, Carol. I
You
was
may
in
have.
town and I did pick up some
It
Berkeley.
was there.
Nice.
Yeah. That's wonderful. Thank you so much for participating in our pickups, and for spreading the word, because then here we are.
Absolutely.
And looks like Sarah had a question.
Yes. I assume that newspaper bags are the crunchy kind.
The scrunchable plastic. Yep. Mhm.
Yes, I also use those for walking my dog and then picking up loose trash around and then throw it away. So I figure that's a valuable use. But I also have all my neighbors saving me their newspaper bags so that I can distribute them. So I can put them in this. Whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Could take a lot of those.
Yeah, that's a wonderful plastic film that we love to get. So
And they were so handy when you weren't supposed to touch anything, so I could
Mhm.
use those.
Yeah.
yes, a good reuse product too.
And thank you. It's just, we are such a throwaway society,
Yeah.
and to be going up against that and not taking our resources and putting them in the landfill. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you for all your support.
Can I ask one more question? I won't ask any more questions after this.
Yeah.
As many questions as you have, Susan.
That's the best question.
Okay, a bag of rice from Trader Joe's. It's the plastic, but I heard you say earlier that the curbside was the hard plastic. Okay, the bag of rice has sort of a hard zipper lock thing at the top.
Should be fine. Yeah, should be fine.
The zipper lock thing is not going to stop us.
No, Ziplocs, for example, Ziploc bags are plastic film. If it gets really, really thick, like a pet food bag, like think of a giant, giant dog bag that's really thick, that is what's called multi-layer plastic. So that would not count. Rice stuff, I think, is thinner than that. I will add, though, we are working very hard on the multi-layer plastics, which are the things that can't go in plastic film. So no official announcement there, but just know that that's one we're working hard on, which include chip bags and Clif Bar wrappers and stuff like that. That's one that's kind of in development.
Mhm. I want to piggyback off that question in the chat, and then we will come to Babs as well as back to Sarah. And that is, what about like plastic film that has like stickers or like a little bit of like very small amounts of contamination like that?
Stickers are fine. Yeah. So you think of the Amazon mailers, the white and blue, Prime things that have the address thing on it. That's not a problem for Trex and for Ridwell.
And then let's go to Babs again.
Back to the plastic, the plastic film that's crunchable or squeezable. When Susan asked about the zip closure, what about the plastic containers that Trader Joe's puts dried fruits and nuts in? They're much thicker than a rice bag. A rice bag is very, very, very flexible. This type of plastic is kind of stiff and it's a bit thicker. And I've been using them for various things, but now they're beginning to kind of fall apart and I have to throw them away. And I feel guilty, but I don't know what to do with them. Do you know the type of plastic I'm referring to? It's crunchable, but it's kind of stiff.
Yeah, my guess is that maybe multi-layer plastic. One thing that we encourage people to do, if you can kind of push your thumb through it, then it would definitely be one we can take. If it's really hard to do and like you'll spend a lot of time trying to push through it and it won't go through, that suggests that it might be multiple layers of plastic in there. And so that would one be not with plastic film, though I did allude a little bit to the multi-layer plastic. We're working on that one.
Okay. Yeah, because I've got a drawer full of those as if I need them. And I don't really, but I don't want to throw them away. So I try to find uses for them, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you for asking. And yeah, we're working on all the plastics we could possibly find a second life or home for. Let's go back to Sarah.
Okay, so I'm gathering that the dog food bags that are really heavy, you don't take. Is that correct?
We're working on that one though. So I don't want to, I feel like I mentioned this too often because it's not a guarantee, but we're working on a pilot for that one. There's a company that in California actually that turns it into gravel, like a kind of a smart composite gravel. And so we're working on that one. If all goes well, it could be something we add in the future, but right now don't take it.
And then, so like, how about plastic cups that like aren't that our recycling in Oakland takes, I know, a number 1, and there are a whole bunch of other numbers. Do you take the hard ones or not?
Hard ones we don't, unless it's something they explicitly don't take, like PET clamshells in Portland and other places. Those we do take. I think in Mountain View, California, I've heard doesn't take clamshells, so that would be one. When we're in Mountain View, we would take those. But I believe in Oakland that's clamshells that is one that they do take. So we'd have to look to see specifically what are the things in Oakland that are not covered that are a hard plastic, and see if it's something we could do.
Could you explain what is a
much.
clamshell?
Sorry?
A clamshell cup or whatever. What
Yeah,
is-
so a clamshell is, think of like a blueberry container, a strawberry container, the spinach, comes in them. So they're things that are, it's a number 1 plastic, but in certain areas, they're not able to take them because they only want the number 1 plastic bottles. And so they let the clamshells kind of fall by the wayside. So Portland, Oregon, and other areas, as well as I believe Mountain View and some places in the peninsula. I'm not sure about the East Bay on that one.
Okay, and one other question I have, someone asked about the electronics. Now, Oakland has a hazardous waste facility where you take all of those things and paints and what have you. So is what you do the same as what they would do for disposal of those things?
There's some overlap with certain categories that you could take there. We'd save you that trip. We wouldn't do, there are some though that are more hazardous than we can handle, like oil-based paints we wouldn't do. So we would say, take that to your hazardous waste, but latex paint we could do because that's doesn't run the same safety risk. Electronics we could do because that doesn't have the same safety risk. So some of the things could go there. We'll save you the trip and we'll definitely make clear what we take and what we don't.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm gonna go to Gretchen and then we'll go to Art. Oh, it looks like you are muted, Gretchen.
Thank you. I have a question about light bulbs. Tell me all the different kinds of light bulbs that you take. And
yes,
how do they get packed? Do they get packed in a padded bag or something?
We give you a bag, a cotton sort of drawstring bag, and it's actually quite rare that things break in there. Just be kind of delicate with them and don't put something super heavy. And if something does break, it's kind of contained in the bag. We take all kinds of light bulbs that'll fit there. So LEDs, incandescents, CFLs, all those types. We also actually do the tubes as well. If you happen to have any of those, that's an add-on. So those are, I don't know, $4 or something extra because we bring you a special box that we put it in, kind of a long sort of rectangular box for those.
So you take the small fluorescents also.
Yep.
Okay. And then the other question is, when somebody signs up, do you give them a really more detailed list of what goes in those 4 categories?
We do, yep. So
Okay.
we love to, when we drop off a bin, we knock on the door and answer any questions, show, you can bring stuff out and ask us specifically. We also have lots of information on our website, and we have this member success team that is phenomenal that answers very specific questions if you have them. You can send them a photo, all that cool stuff. One other little tidbit I'll share too, we are coming out with an app to manage Ridwell as a user. And so that's a great way to ask questions as well, because it'll be a downloadable app in the App Store and stuff like that. So that'll be a fun way to answer any questions and actually see lots of pictures and examples right from your home screen.
Cool, thank you.
Art, it looked, also I just do want to flag at 7:54, so I want to be really respectful of Ryan's time. I don't know if he is willing to go beyond 8. I know he's very busy, so just flag that we have a few more questions in the chat box. I know we had one from Art, and then I am more than happy to stay beyond 8 p.m. And my email's always open, or I'm actually would always love to schedule a one-on-one Zoom call with anyone who would like to learn more about Ridwell. So all of that is, with all that said, Art, it looks like you had another question.
So here's a question from someone else in our family. It says, is your system the reason why Trex decks smell like salad dressing?
I have never seen that, but that's an interesting one. I would guess it smells like salad dressing when people spilled it on it, but
That's a funny question. I will just answer this really briefly. Linda's question, she said, do you recommend alternative products that are responsibly packaged? So we touched on this a bit earlier, but we do actively encourage as a first go around to being a more conscious citizen to reduce your use. So whether that be going to zero waste grocery stores or bringing your own grocery bags or whatever it is, that is our first line of defense against being a responsible citizen. If it is unavoidable or it comes up in your life, you just have to pack your kids' snacks that way or whatever it might be. We hope to provide a space where you can get rid of those materials and have them not just go straight to the landfill and be a source of microplastics for this country and this world and our oceans and all of that. So yes, we do recommend alternatives when you can do it. And we are there for you while single-use plastic is in use to help at least prolong the life of it.
One other sort of anecdote from the past, we had a featured category a while back that was dental care items. So it was toothbrushes and floss containers and toothpaste tubes, stuff like that. We did that and it was kind of an okay recycling use case. It wasn't our favorite, it was kind of downcycled. But what we did after that is we experimented with some products on our own that were better. So toothbrushes made of bamboo and floss that was compostable. And so these are specific brands that we tested ourselves as an early team. This was a couple of years ago. And then what we did is we bought them in wholesale from the vendors who had them, and we offered them for sale for our members. And it was really fun because then the delivery, we're already going to your house. You don't need any packaging because you have a bin, and so we can put it in there. And so you could just add it onto your pickup and we could drop off, recommended products. We haven't done that in a little while, but it's definitely something we're excited to do more of. Because Luna said when there is single-use plastic, we want to be a great home for it, but we want to help move beyond it. And so if we can build a community of people and identify the types of things that are even better than recycling, we hope to play a role in getting that to you in a really easy to use way.
Needless to say, Ryan and the team have endless ideas of how we can be better. So we're just trying to get to you on our first attempt and then implement all these into our communities. It looks like Babs has a question.
I'm now thinking about everything I've got in my cabinets. So forgive me if I'm asking something that somebody asked at the very beginning. I have collected over the 11 years that I've lived at my current home takeout containers where the bottom is black and then the top is clear plastic. Sometimes it's domed and the bottom is quite thick black. I wash them and stack them up and stack them up and stack them up. And I'm just ashamed at how many I have. And I was wondering if those are recyclable.
They are in Seattle, so I know like in where I live, they are. I don't know in the community you're in. Okay. So I and when we start service, like we can help answer those questions because we have data on what's available in Oakland and Berkeley and places like that. So I would check to see what is available where you live. It may be one that is curbside. If it's not, that could be something we could take a look at for sure.
Okay, but right now, so just to be clear, you don't take them yourselves right now. I know I can call my hazardous waste people in my recycler to find out, and I just never picked up the phone, which is one of the good reasons for just participating tonight, if for no other reason, but just that my mind is going on all of these different types. And so right now you don't do it.
Yeah, so the order would be figure out if the city you're in takes them. If it doesn't, then there are many other neighbors of yours who probably would want that too. Then we can explore, could it be something we could add to the service in Oakland, Berkeley, whatever city you're in. That's how we added clamshells, for example, in Portland. So start with a city. If it's not there, that provides us an opportunity to add something incremental to what is done locally. And we love to do that and provide proof that it can happen. So start there. If it doesn't, let us know and we can see if it can be something we could add.
Thank you.
Thank you. I see that Sarah has a question, and just out of respect for everyone's time, it is about to be 8 p.m. So I'd love to stay and answer any questions beyond that, but we will let Ryan get back to his family and his work at 8 p.m. So Sarah, what is your final question?
I have a quick question about, I've got these little plastic things that I clean between my teeth. They got little brushes on them. Do you take those? Would they qualify with the scrunchables, or or whatever?
Probably not. I would suspect those would be a harder plastic.
plastic.
They are harder
Than is one we
plastic.
could do.
Okay,
Yeah.
and then just a comment to Babs and anybody else. I wash those things out, that I bring home from restaurants, and then I stick them in my car so that I can take them into the restaurant and not take a new one.
Great.
You know
Yeah.
what?
Oh, good.
I have done that, and I have actually been told by several businesses that they will not accept it. And I also did the similar thing with Safeway many, many years ago. I would wash them, take the old label off, and then when I was going to buy a prepared salad at the deli, ask them to use it. And I deliberately pretended that nobody had given me a no, and I would ask different employees at different grocery visits, and I was told over and over and over again that it's a liability issue because they don't know whether people, I guess maybe people could sue them for food poisoning or something. And so I know Safeway, at least the 2 Safeways in Walnut Creek, will not accept those. But the other ones I have tried at some of the restaurants, and they would not take them.
I don't give it to them. I just take it myself, and then I pack it myself so it goes home with me. So I don't invite them at all.
I see. But if you call a restaurant to make an order for a meal,
Oh, no.
I see what you're talking about. If you're already eating there and you
Right.
take home. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Anyway,
There are a bunch of startups that are working on reusable containers, and we hope to partner with them too, where you can, you're getting your delivery and you get it in something reusable that then could be returned. I think they're also, someone pointed out around the kind of liability and health code. Sometimes those can make those types of programs more difficult. But there's a lot of focus on that, a lot of attention, and I think there will be more of it in the future for sure.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I would love to answer any questions that anyone has beyond all this.
I'm
But
gonna stop off. Thanks everyone so much for
Thank
the
you
wonderful
so much.
questions
Thank
and the
you.
great audience. It was
Hello.
phenomenal
Thank
to
you.
meet you.
thank you so much,
Yay.
Ryan. Have
Bye.
a great night.
Bye.
Yeah, bye.
I would love to stay and answer any questions that anyone has, but I know that it is 8 p.m. So feel free to log off if you are busy or just would like to leave after an hour. But I'm just gonna really quickly go through the questions in the chat Ryan was not able to answer. And then we can see if there are any more questions. But just to clarify, we did talk about it briefly, but clamshells are the thicker, hard plastic that oftentimes fruit comes in. You oftentimes click it into the little corners.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Blueberries and
Yeah, with blueberries and those sorts of things. Little plastic bags that individual greeting cards come in. I believe that those are cellophane. Cellophane and plastic are more cousins than they are siblings. So oftentimes we're not able to collect cellophane products, but it can be deceiving because it does look like plastic film. So if there's any way to find out if they're cellophane, then we are unable to take them because it doesn't work the same as plastic film for Trex, but if they're plastic film, that's wonderful and we can take them. So Betsy asked about halogen light bulbs. I believe that's the question. I am actually not entirely sure about halogen light bulbs. However, we can ask member success and they will get back to us about the type of light bulbs that you do have. And I can let Susan know, or you can email me directly and I'll make sure to get back to you on that. And then wax paper and parchment paper. So we do not take any paper products because they are either recycled by your curbside recycling. I am not personally sure. I can look up if this city that you live in, or I'll just look up if.
They've said that they don't take parchment or wax paper because there's silicone or some kind of petroleum products added to them. So you can't put them in compost or recycling.
Yes, because it looks like, well, I know how most paper recycling works is they mix it with water. And so it kind of needs to dissolve or react to water in a similar way so that they can create a uniform product. So wax paper and parchment paper just will not have the same kind of dissolvability or material as regular paper. So unfortunately, we don't take them, as well as curbside recycling. So it could be a great thing for us to look into. Yeah. Hi, Susan.
I wanted to say that both Anna and I have parchment paper, 2 different brands, and it says compostable on them.
Oh,
Oakland says not.
Oh, really?
My box says yes, but Oakland says not.
Oh, I see.
Oh,
I have a question.
Now I'm gonna call my Arvinder people to find out. Yeah, all right.
Luna, I'm curious to know, is your organization working with, there's a number of organizations here in California that are working to put an end to single-use plastics. And we have this recent, really groundbreaking legislation that was passed in June. Are you guys in active collaboration with those groups? Because, some of them are really trying to completely solve this problem.
yeah, absolutely. So I'll start that out by saying this is actually our first ever location that we're going to be in California. So we're only just getting familiar really as a company like Ridwell wide with California politics, legislation, and all of that kind of stuff. As a company, we support all banning of single-use plastics. So there have been similar legislations up in Washington, in Seattle, where it was founded, and Ridwell has actively supported both members of the cabinet and those sorts of stuff that are anti-single-use plastic and very pro-recycling and reuse. And the same will absolutely be true in California, that we will support all of that, but have not been actively involved in previous legislation that's passed due to our lack of being in California. So
You're right. All right. I understand.
yeah, thank you so much for asking though, because yes, 100% we do support that.
Yeah.
Also, I just want to shout out that Deborah shouted out that if anyone has extra plastic, paper, or canvas grocery bags that they knew that need them at the Fruitvale pantry. So that's an excellent way to reuse and recycle.
yeah.
And I'm sure she has more information about that if you'd like it. And
Gretchen
then,
has her hand up.
oh yes, thank you, Gretchen. Oh, you're muted.
I have my hand up because Deborah also mentioned that Community Table, which is a restaurant near where she and I live in Oakland, uses Dispatch Goods. Dispatch Goods is out of San Francisco, and they provide to restaurants reusable steel containers and glass containers. And so when you go pick up from their store, you can choose to go with the recyclable containers or pay money for the plastic ones, which is a great, it's a great lure anyway. And then the next time you go back to that place, to that restaurant, you return the slightly cleaned goods because they sterilize, obviously. And so what I would say to you is that there are more restaurants in the East Bay now than there used to be that use Dispatch Goods. So go to the Dispatch Goods website and you can find out who in the East Bay provides that service. It's really, really wonderful. There are quite a few restaurants now.
Thank you so much for sharing. Yeah, it's amazing to have resources and to share. Yes, Carol?
When you leave a bag for plastics that are going to be picked up by your truck, do you then leave the bag behind, or do you have to ask for a bag every time?
Great question. So they are reusable canvas bags, but the way that we do it is we have like double the amount of bags that we have households. So we pick up your bag and then we bring those self-sorted bags into our truck and then our warehouse, and then we leave with you in the moment that we pick up the bag. We leave with you
Another
a new
one.
clean reusable set.
Thank
So
you.
yeah, they're cycled through. Yeah, absolutely.
I have
And thank you, Deborah, for putting Dispatch Goods. Oh yes, hi Susan. Other Susan.
Yeah, I had a question that I think you said at the very beginning. If in our bins, we do put something that's not correct, we get feedback from you? We will
Yes.
be totally, okay,
Oh.
that's,
Yeah, so we'll put notes, so our drivers, or we'll let you know, so we'll have like an East Bay contamination amount or that kind of stuff. And so we'll let you know, say for plastic film, if the highest contaminant is people are putting in thick plastics, like multi-layered plastics that we can't take, we will let the East Bay community know that that's where our contamination lies, and then send like photos and and be open for conversation and helping people figure out what we can and cannot accept. Because we know that people try to be very conscientious of it. So we just try to support them where we can. Yeah, are there any other questions?
Yeah,
Thank you.
I agree.
I just want to say a massive, massive thank you to Susan and Art. I had the pleasure of actually meeting them in person at Strata Cafe in Berkeley with Ryan. So it's just been incredible to get to know both of you, and thank you so much for putting in all the work to make this happen. And it's made my night to see so many of you who are so passionate and want to make a difference. And that's what I'm trying to do. And I feel grateful that this is my job out of Berkeley, and that hopefully I can get Ridwell to your homes or your neighbors' homes, or hopefully all over the East Bay. So just grateful for you all taking the time out of your night.
By the way,
Thank you. Thank you.
it was my wife that did it.
Yes, mostly Susan. Thank you so very much, Susan.
You know what? Art does a lot for social justice at church, so he does his share. Thank you, everybody, for coming.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Great
Thank you.
program.
Art, Susan, and I didn't get the lady who's helping us.
Luna.
Luna?
Luna, thank you.
Yeah.
And Carol, thank you for finding out about this
Oh,
whole
yeah.
thing.
It just came my way and I figured, okay, let's pass it along.
Yes, thank you so
Very
much,
good.
Carol.
You're welcome.
Yes,
So
and,
Luna, are you in Berkeley?
I actually just really recently moved back to my family home, but I'm still in the Bay Area, and then hopefully we'll be back in the East Bay soon. But we're living at home right now for a little while.
Which is?
Larkspur.
Oh, okay.
You're
Still Bay Area.
Oh yes, yeah. I've lived in the
Right.
Bay Area my whole life. My dad and my grandparents all went to Berkeley too. So
Oh,
I was never. No one lives very far from Berkeley in my
so you're a
family.
baby bear.
Yes, I'm super baby there. Yeah. And my sister actually just had her first day.
You're a local girl. You are one of our own.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, oh, by the way, please do not get insulted that I just called you a girl, because I love being called a girl.
Oh no. I love being a girl. I'm so proud to be a girl.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Luna, so much. And, for all of our texts and our emails, and
Absolutely.
thank you.
It's been so fun. And thank you again, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everybody. Thank
Have a
you.
wonderful rest of your
Bye-bye.
evening. Goodbye.
Bye.
Thank you, Deborah, for what you did. Deborah,
Yes,
thank you.
thank you, Deborah, for recording it and for all that.
I already emailed Steve McKiernan. He's the one who gets the recordings in his account, and asked him to post it. What he does with non-service things is he gives them a 2-week limit. But in those 2 weeks, you can download it on your own computer.
Oh, good.
So as I asked him to please post it and send me the link. When he does so, I will send that link to everybody who is on this list. If Luna's not on that list, then please forward it to her. And yeah.
I was trying to write everybody's names down, but I'm not good enough on the computer to know.
Ask Steve McKiernan, or I can actually get that. I can access that part in the account. So yeah, I can get the attendance record.
Well, Deborah, thank you so much, because
Yeah.
I wouldn't have known how to record it for sure.
Yeah.
And Callie War is going to be late.
The tickets.
And
This has been fantastic.
yeah, thank
I
you.
have no idea.
Yeah.